Michael Savage.
Afternoons 3 to 7.
On Talk 910 KNEW.
And online at 910KNEW.com.
The Savage Nation. On Talk 910 KNEW.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
The enormity of the legislation that's before us today can hardly be comprehended. It's with the interest scored by the Congressional Budget Office. The bill is $1.25 trillion. That is more than twice as much as the 5-year Iraq war has cost. It's the largest expenditure in the history of this country or any country in the history of the world. Remember, we have a big budget. We're spending a lot of money, too much money, most people think, in our normal budget. Every penny of this money is debt. We do not have the money to pay for it. We're already in deficit. This just increases the size of that deficit. It increases the interest that we'll have to pay on it.
All right, it's Rock and Roll Friday on the Savage Nation. We can't believe what we're watching. I mean, how many aquariums can you go to in your life is the question. How many towns need an aquarium? Well, to the Democrat, there's an infinite number of people who want to go to aquariums. I guess it'll create jobs for fish feeders and fish cleaners, but the cost of the jobs will be about $300,000 to $600,000 per job. See, the Democrats tell you that by passing this pork barrel bill, jobs will be created. Now, of course, they're not lying in the big picture. They are lying. But how much will each job cost? The estimate, according to the Congressional Budget Office, is $300,000 to $500,000 per job. That's the cost of creating the job. So it's not that they're creating jobs. They're sending slush money back into the districts of the people who supported the fraud, the shill, the phony, the emperor. There's another big story I want to talk about as we all await the vote on the pork barrel bill. That, by the way, the speaker was the greatest. One of my heroes, Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, one of the true American senators. The rest of them make my flesh crawl. There's about 5 of them who are true Americans. The rest of them, as far as I'm concerned, should be deported. When I watched them in the floor, the well of the Senate, in the midst of America's crisis, patting each other on the back, rolling on their feet as though they're at a wedding, standing there as though it's all business as usual, I am furious. I guess they'll next want to control C-SPAN. I guess next they'll want to turn off the C-SPAN cameras so we can't actually see the faces of evil. Just as the so-called fairness doctrine is an attempt to shut off the voices of criticism in the United States of America, just as the Fuhrer of Chicago, Mayor Richard Daley, said that he doesn't want anyone to see what he is asking for in the pork barrel bill because then the newspapers will dig into it. You hear this? That's the object of the newspapers, Mr. Daley. The object of the newspapers is to dig into things that politicians do. That's their job, Mr. Daley. We don't live in Syria. We don't live in Iran. We don't live in Cuba, Mr. Daley. We live in the United States of America. But when it comes to the media, as you well know, they've all rolled over to the government, with the exception of talk radio. And in talk radio, it's only the conservative end of the dial that stands between absolute silence of the people and a total dictatorship of the politicians. The person leading the charge to destroy freedom of speech is none other than the perfect face for this pork barrel bill, And that's Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. In other words, if you were to paint a face on the pork barrel stimulus bill, if you were looking for the perfect embodiment of it, it would be Debbie Stabenow, both physically and mentally. She matches the pork barrel bill perfectly. Now, of course, I'm angry at her because she's a dictator in her heart. She'd like to turn off talk radio, and I'm angry at her. But there's another reason. And the other reason is that the Fairness Doctrine senator's husband was involved in a hooker scandal, and the girl he used in the motel room went to jail, but Michigan Senator Stabenow's husband escaped any charges whatsoever in exchange for his assistance in the case, according to the police in Troy, Michigan. So, in other words, the hooker went to jail, Stabenow's husband avoided jail, and now this face of the pork barrel bill herself wants hearings on radio accountability. The fact of the matter is, there's more to this than meets the eye. This is something you're not going to read about anywhere else, but it's up on michaelsavage.com. Do you know who her husband is? Do you know why the embodiment of the pork barrel bill, Debbie Stabenow, wants a fairness doctrine? Do you know why this beast from Michigan wants conservatives turned off the air? Do you know why the beast wants it done? Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow's husband, who was involved in a hooker scandal, has a name. His name is Thomas Athens. He is the co-founder of the Liberal Talk USA radio network. Did you know that? Did you know that this man arrested in the hooker scandal, her husband, started Talk Radio USA in 06 after leading program at the failed Air America, the liberal network that declared bankruptcy that year? Are you aware that this senator, this beast, this pig, has a husband who is running a competitive business with conservative talk radio? As far as I'm concerned, she should be thrown into prison. As far as I'm concerned, this woman should be stripped of her Senate seat for simply trying to destroy a competitive business. I hope you understand what I just said to you.